Brad, you talk to some of the worst people in the world. And you mentioned earlier helping out with child cases and stuff like that. How do you deal emotionally with talking to murderers and child sex offenders and the worst of the worst? That's got to weigh on you.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I'm not going to say that talking to people that take the life of another person is easy, but many of the people that I talk to that committed a homicide, they did it against somebody else that I'm definitely not saying they deserved it, but somebody else that maybe did something to their friend or murdered somebody else, and it was a situation where that person was not a person they just picked up out of the phone book. It was not a person they abducted on the street. It was somebody they had beef with because that person had committed a crime against them or so on and so forth. Doesn't make it right. I'm not condoning that. But when I would go home at night, it was a little bit different. Now, some of the homicides that I worked where an 11-year-old girl was hit by a stray bullet or a 6-year-old was shot accidentally, that obviously that weighs on you, but in the hundreds of situations where I dealt with people that would download child sexual abuse material, we don't call it child pornography anymore. We've really gotten away from that because it's not a choice. It's not pornography. It's abuse matter. So we call it child sexual abusive material. In that, when you would talk to these individuals and they would talk about how they groomed a kid and how they exploited this kid, that is like they would do the same stuff that our spies would do on how to try to get a source, but they weren't doing it to try to advance America's interests. They were trying to do it to advance their own interests. And they were scarring these kids for their entire life. And to not show contempt when you're talking to them and to help them rationalize their behaviors, the problem, because the cognitive dissonance between who you are and who you are in the interview room to get them to feel comfortable and to fight off showing that contempt, Brent, is what is hard. And when you come home and you're greeted by your kids running up to you, hey, dad, you're home, it's late, and you go to tuck them into bed, that's the mental calculus. It's a problem. And I'm always blessed because I would intentionally shield myself from the images, the abuse images, because I would find if I was to see those, there's no amount of suppression can keep those from coming to earth. So that's why so many of our people that work those cases from a forensic angle that have to look at the images really have to sit in with a counsel every once in a while. There's certain tips and tricks we can do. I don't want to call them tricks, but just ways we can lighten this, in that I never do my work at home. I never write reports at home. I always get a jiu-jitsu session in before I write my report. When I come home from a long case, Brent, one of the things I found, I've got this Dr. Stacy with the Washington Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. She's amazing, where she taught me how to play a video game in your driveway before you walk in the house. And that way I'm doing something. It could just be a game of chess, but I'm having to think. And so the last thought when I cross the threshold into my house and greet my kids is not that bad thing. So for me, that's made it better, but it's very, very difficult because if I show judgment to these people as they're making a disclosure, they are very keen on people's reactions. That's part of the grooming process, is that they sense they're not safe, that amygdala fires in their limbic system, and they shut down. And so I truly have to have curiosity, and I truly have to have, not the what, but the why, and why not from a judgment standpoint. Because too many people, when you ask somebody why and you have that face with it, it comes off as so judgmental. And when somebody's done something bad and you're judging them, it shuts them down faster than nothing else. So almost like I have to have duct tape on my forehead to keep from showing contempt. And I have to deepen that voice, and I have to lean in, and my eyes have to be soft. And I truly have to be curious from a tactical empathy standpoint in order to try to get that information. But it's a great question, and it's something I've struggled with for the last 10, 15 years.
We just did a show on stress management. One of the things we talked about was video gaming, because it
Yeah.
immerses all your senses.
Mm-hmm.
Even for a few minutes, you have to be fully immersed in this to actually function and engage, and it takes you out of the current mindset.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Brent. I'm glad you brought that up, because the second pillar of that for me was the jujitsu. And when I'm grappling with another human being that's trying to choke me or take my arm and, do an arm bar or whatever joint lock they're trying to do, if I'm not 100% on the mat, bad things are going to happen to me. Right. So it's interesting you brought that up, because anytime you can do something where you have to be 100% present, it really helps separate what you were doing to what you're into now. So I'm glad you brought that up. That's been very helpful for me.